what causes poverty? Generally, is lack of economic activity and economic development. Even as we do economic development as member states or the region, how do we make sure that we broaden economic development? You'll see that a lot of people move to the cities and bigger towns and so forth, what you call rural-urban migration. So for countries in the region to make sure that, one, they deal with that, probably at the programming level or at planning level, is to make sure that economic development also happens in the major villages and major towns, so that you minimize movement of people to the centers and so forth. When people come here and they don't find jobs, then they are in the poverty area, and then they have to be provided for. They become part of the social services programs and grants, and then becomes costly to any government that runs that. So we need to make sure that our planning and our programming is such that it addresses people where they are at and make sure that they are able to be addressed. Two, I think it's making sure that all aspects of the economy, all the sectors in the economy are generating jobs. So the ministries of finance and planning, in my view, they are very critical and central to this on poverty. They must make such that they develop programs and projects that are going to generate more jobs, that are going to create jobs, whether it's people employing themselves and people being employed. They should be able to do that. So when they develop agricultural projects and programs, they must be such that they generate those jobs. When they develop any other, whether it's in the natural resources space, you are using wildlife, you are using any other resources that you have, they must make sure that they generate jobs. So it's not just good enough to say, no, we are going to be doing. So in fact, targets become critical in my view, that we're coming up with this program, and therefore it should generate 20, 50,000 jobs. When you beneficiate as well, how many jobs are being created? The third is governments. I think they must make sure that the private sector drives development. It drives economic activity. Many governments actually pull back and just develop policies, programs, regulations, and so forth, and enable private sector to function. I've worked in the private sector, and if private sector is allowed to thrive and function, reduce bottlenecks, reduce things that are inhibiting it to function and move, then it's able to thrive. That is not really worried about what are policies you've put in place and so forth. But governments should facilitate private sector to run. The things that I was talking about earlier on, when I spoke about industrialization and integration and so forth, they must be driven by a private sector, including even projects, building projects like the Kazungula Bridge. That bridge or more bridges like that, they should be built by a private sector. Mostly it's creating jobs. It's making sure that programs are actually affecting those people and uplifting them from that poverty levels that they find themselves in. There are people that have been worried, people complaining about their towns or villages where these minerals are actually mined. They've been found and they are mined. And then you look at them and they say, no, we are not developing, but we are producing copper. We are producing diamonds. We are producing platinum in my region, in my village. But we don't have roads, we don't have clinics, we don't have this and the other and so forth. So I think it's also for the region and the member states that do have these minerals to balance this thing. It's a delicate balance. It's member states and particularly the leaders making sure that even as they grow the rest of the economy, the place where these minerals are actually mined and developed is not way behind in its development. So they must make sure that part of that is being addressed. That's one. Two, it's the beneficiation I spoke about. Exportation of non-processed minerals. I think it should be stopped now. You really have to be starting to industrialize and make sure that the value chains are closed. Fortunately, the region has come up with that. It's one of the priority areas for the SADC region to actually industrialize and also beneficiate in all these areas. So we've now developed a policy in that regard, and I think they'll be now running to speed. But obviously it's all the countries that have to come in, those that have minerals that can be beneficiated. So it means when we say regional beneficiation, it means some of them might be done in one country and concluded in another country. We must make sure that when we export anything related to our minerals, it's in a finished form. Because when that happens, jobs are created, the economic activity is actually thriving, money is spent here, is developed here, and therefore what we export is only those products, the finished products, and jobs are actually being done here. So I think, one, it will affect those that are producing, those that are closer to where production is, but the rest of the economy generally is because now we're all benefiting. And then the revenues that draw from these pay taxes, those companies pay taxes, more increased taxes that now pay back into the treasury, and therefore governments can now start using more money to do other areas of development, your health, your education, infrastructure, and so forth.